This letter comes from Doc. I didn't have that.
Okay, are those tests, tests sent to HR? Does HR?
I can't answer that question.
You don't know? Okay. Next question. Because so far, I only see one thing that she, 1 out of 22 of those components, which makes me wonder, is there significant?
You said you only see one thing. Are you looking at her coaching, or are you looking at her teacher observation?
Well, as you know, as a principal in Arkansas, you do not evaluate coaches and teachers the same way. They are evaluated differently.
Okay.
No, I want you to tell me how they're evaluated. That's the questions. How do you evaluate and separate them out?
Well, I mean, the thing is, you have a rubric and an instrument that they use for coaching.
Which instrument is that?
Do y'all have a copy of it? I do not have Mr. Coach Hobbs's evaluation in front of me. But they may have it at the table. I just don't have that.
Have you reviewed her evaluations?
Her evaluations, have I reviewed her evaluations in regards to coaching?
All of it, just her being an employee. I mean, she's really a biology teacher first, and then she's a coach because she only coaches.
No, the test evaluations they would not finish up their final evaluation. That was the one with Mr. Bostic, and that was done probably 2 weeks ago in regards to finish up, because we have 165 teachers, divide that up amongst the administrators. So some of those evaluations we've been wrapping up right around.
Well, how did you non-renew her? And then if you haven't followed the evaluation system, which is a part of the LEARNS Act?
Well, I non-renewed her because of her grade distribution. That was the reason for my non-renewal, was because of grade distribution and her willingness to improve in regards to her grade distribution.
And how do you gauge whether or not she have her willingness to improve or not improve? Outside of looking at reports.
I mean, to me, the way you improve is your level of participation. So when you have professional learning communities, or you bring in individuals to help you improve on your level of instruction, and you don't attend, and then on top of that, you don't contact the parents of the children who are failing, where you say, I send one blanket email and that covers everybody. To me, that's not improving.
Mr. Maxey,
Now, don't get me wrong. It may be board. I mean,
this isn't board.
I mean,
this
may be
straight
the minimum.
operations. And I've dealt with principals, I don't know, for over 20 years now, just as a parent, as an advocate, as a parent advocate, as an educational advocate, as a board, as just an education volunteer. And when I listen to you, you have nothing. You are not able to point to anything that she have been deficient in. Talk to me about this intensive support plan. What type of intensive support plan did you or your staff put her on?
We did not put her on an intensive support plan.
Okay, and that's part of LEARNS Act, is it not?
Okay.
No, I'm asking you.
I don't know.
I mean,
if it's
you
part
should
of
know.
LEARNS. I don't know if it's part of LEARNS Act in regards to the intensive support plan.
Well, I'm going to tell you, it is.
Okay.
And then that means that you are in violation of that part of it. The other part I want to know is you are the executive turnaround principal of Southwest Little Rock. How long have you been in education?
20 plus years.
Okay. Have you ever taken in any breaks from education?
In regards to
in regards
to working in schools?
In regards of what you do now Have you ever have you continuously been right in the K-12 industry of education?
I've been working in the K-12 industry for quite a while. Yes, ma'am.
What's a quite a while?
Over the last 20 years, I've been working in the K-12 industry.
Okay. Have you had any breaks in K-12 prior to coming to Southwest Little Rock?
No, ma'am. I've been working in K-12. Prior to this, I was working for LA Jackson. I was K-12.
Within the school system as an educator, as a
educator,
principal.
Yes. I've had a break from that, yes.
Okay. And how long was that break? From what year to what year?
As a principal from 2011 to
So
now.
2011 to what year?
To now.
To 2024?
Yes, as a principal, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then, so were you a teacher? And then what, as a principal, then what did you do then?
I worked as a consultant within different school systems. I worked within the nonprofit arena within the school systems also.
Okay, and so you was a program provider or something? Or
Community provider, yes, ma'am.
What did you do?
What I do in regards to what, ma'am?
What you're saying of consulting?
Work as a consultant. I worked with high school and middle school principals in regards to increasing instruction and quality of instruction. I did that in Miami. I did that in Chicago. I did that in Orange County, California. I did it
all
Allendale,
over the
South
country.
Carolina.
You did, and so
And then I also worked in the nonprofit arena in Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay, and so essentially, it's no different than these consultants coming into our district from all over the country, and so like you went to these different things. My question is this: how much do you believe that since the last time you were a principal in 2011 to 2024, coming back into the educational industry as an educator in the school system at a school building, have you noticed that there is a change in the way that things are done as far as you come into Arkansas? Do you know how to properly evaluate your employees?
Yes. You're asking a question.
Do you know how to properly?
Am I well versed in regards to all aspects in regards to Arkansas's evaluation system? To answer that question, I am not fully well versed because I'm still being trained in that.
You're not.
Yes.
So no,
I'm not.
You're not.
But in regards to finding what is good teaching qualities, yes, I am.
But that's okay. So with good teaching qualities, what documentation have you done with her just on biology to to determine whether or not she is meeting those standards? Like, how are you documenting that?
The way in which I documented that was seeing her level of participation in PLCs and implementation of those PLCs in her classroom.
Have you seen them?
When we look at avid principals, in what way is she incorporating those avid principals in her classroom? Okay.
You mentioned about, and this is a really light one, really. You mentioned about door knocking to be able to, get the students in to come for their tests, and so they can make 95% of testing of the student population. It doesn't have anything to do with achievement, it's just test takers. When you knocked on those doors, what was the response to engaging your families directly to you? Like, how did they respond seeing their principal at their door?
Well, for me, when we sent the team out, myself and my program director in regards to parent liaison, Ms. Washington, we stayed at home base so we can offer a level of assistance to anybody that may need assistance going out, because we had about 80 people going out. So we didn't necessarily go out to knock on doors individually. What we did, or what I did, was afterwards, was there any households that were not picked up, we picked up those households from there. So let's say we didn't get the chance to hit these households, so we went and knocked on
No,
those
I get
doors.
that.
Yeah.
So my question was, how did
What
those
was the
families?
response? Yeah, I mean, they were just saying, thank you. I
Okay.
mean, they were shocked. And the thing is,
And then I don't want to spend a lot of time on that.
we kept it simple, kept it brief, but we made sure that the parents were made aware.
Okay. So
Ask a question, Miss.
just one more right here.
At any point.
Yes.
Some point.
At some point you will. With 95% of test takers, so obviously students were in the seats. How did attendance improve? Or like, what was the impact of attendance? So is it still a 95% rate of normative attendance?
So you're asking me, did the kids come in and take the test increase attendance in the school?
I'm just asking about.
Okay, I'm
it's
sorry.
very.
What are you asking?
I'm gonna try and do it very elementary. With the increase of students coming back into the building, how did that impact attendance at school? Did it rise? Did it go down?
It improved.
Okay, so how many absenteeism? How many students would you say are absent?
I don't have that data in front of me, man, to answer that right now.
Okay, and then I'm gonna pause on my questions. After I asked this one, you talked about it being a turnaround school. Because the board, we don't really know exactly what the requirements of that really is. Have you developed a written plan for recovery or focus for staff and community and students? Is there some type of document that will say what is a turnaround school? That what you have given to your staff?
No, ma'am. I have not given any type of document or plan to the staff saying this is a turnaround school.
Okay. All right. I'm going to pause and let my colleagues ask some questions.
Could you not pause? Could you stop?
No, I'm not
Please
stopping.
stop.
I got questions.
Okay, so I have a quick question. I'm going to be as precise as possible. So you talked a lot about there being a need really for a cultural shift because there are some struggles from the top down. Is what I believe I heard you say. Is that correct?
I know we're on the sake of time. When you say
Yes.
struggles from the top down, can you be more specific when you say top
Absolutely.
down?
So essentially, I heard you say something about there being a lack of knowledge around Schoology, around taking attendance, around a
Okay.
number of things that are really just
Yeah, so
basic.
Adult struggles, yes, ma'am.
Absolutely,
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
adult
Yes,
struggles.
yeah,
So
adult struggles, yes,
if
ma'am.
we seek, so if we have adult struggles and we have a culture that seems to really struggle
Yes, ma'am.
wholly, is it valid to assume that just as the children really, really need structure, instruction, a number of things, perhaps the staff and faculty do as well?
Yes, lack of systems need
Yeah.
strong, consistency
Yeah.
with systems. Correct.
Absolutely.
And
So, just-
accountability.
Yes, absolutely. I don't want to cut you off, but you know.
Yes, ma'am.
So, with that being said, do you believe that we have been diligent in that regard, that we have been fervent in our efforts to ensure that faculty and staff are provided the necessary tools to be effective with students to impact outcomes?
We're working towards that.
Okay.
We're
So-
moving in that direction, ma'am.
Okay, so what I believe that I hear you saying, and I don't want to be a therapist in this moment, but I do believe what I hear you saying is perhaps we have not done as much as we can, but we're working towards that.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're working towards that.
Okay.
Yes, we are.
So
Is there
if
more to
that
do?
is the
Always.
case, if that is the case, and we're working towards it, how much more those who have experience in it, as you've mentioned, do those who perhaps have not had experience in it, would they perhaps need more pouring into and more specificity and more education and more deliberate and intentional instruction around that, so that we are cultivating an environment that, kind of employs those pieces.
And to answer your question, I
Okay.
would say an animate yes if a person is willing to do it.
Okay.
It has to be a level of willingness.
Okay.
A desire. Do I have a desire to
How
want to
long
improve?
has it been? How
Longer
long
than-
has it been now?
For what?
For me, 5
Yes,
months,
sir.
ma'am.
5 months.
Yes, ma'am.
13
Okay,
years out of
so-
the industry.
So if it's been 5 months,
Yes, ma'am.
is that truly a, sufficient period of time to make an informed decision about someone's willingness, especially in light of the fact that, like you said, the storm has happened, transition has happened, movement has happened. I mean, you're transitioning here, and, all of the moving pieces. Is it really, do we have the capacity to make an informed decision in such a short period of time that's even shorter than truly 5 months?
I believe there's enough factors there to make decisions whether or not an individual wants to do it
Yes.
and to what level they want to do it to.
Okay.
And what are those factors? You said there are factors. What are those factors for Miss Austin?
I mean,
Only for her.
Well, those factors for Miss Austin is, doing the things such as notifying parents, showing up to your PLC meetings, working with your students, putting her in a position as much as possible to be successful. So a perfect example, making you sure that you can get money to do credit recovery. You have a high failure rate. So I'm going to pay you to tutor kids during the school day at their lunchtime.
But what if they don't come?
I mean, you're right.
But they're not coming.
They have the option not to come. Same way they have the option not to come to school. But is that way of building out that relationship with them to say, hey, I'm going to go the extra mile to make sure, because I'm at Southwest, to get this student to come. We're
Well, it
talking
wouldn't
about,
matter if she was at Southwest Central or anything. My concern with you is that you haven't said anything about the overall test system or the overall components and things and then which that you're supposed to by law be able to evaluate people. And so you're talking very general about things. It's almost like if I'm talking right to my son or something, like if you're just going all around and I'm trying to figure out what rubric did
Well,
you
I mean,
follow.
I don't feel you're,
Mr. Heller?
you're talking to my son. I mean, that's kind of,
It-
all right,
well,
that's, okay,
Mr.
yes,
Heller,
ma'am.
That's what I'm-
That's kind of
I feel like I
disrespectful.
need to make one point.
It's disrespectful.
before
It's
we,
not.
Get Yes, off sir. in the
Just trying to
wrong
figure it
direction
out.
here, but in the test rules, at the end of the section on intensive support, it says, Rule 6.22, these rules do not preclude a public school superintendent from 6.221, making a recommendation for the termination or non-renewal of a teacher's contract for any lawful reason. So I just wanted to point out that,
Well, you can't because he's doing the same thing I was about to do.
anybody else can look at it. It's
Glad you did that because
in
that
the
is the
old rules
law.
and the new rules.
That's the law in the state of Arkansas now with respect to
No,
those.
I get that. I'm going off of the letter to substantiate what is said in this letter, more
I
so,
just wanted to
which
make
is
sure
why I
that
didn't even
there
ask
wasn't a-
about changing of the grades
Wasn't a
and whether or not that's
misunderstanding
accurate.
about whether everybody has to be in intensive support before they can be non-renewed. So I think we all agree that's not the,
That's not the law in the state of Arkansas now. Yes, sir, Mr. Adams?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Maxey, if Ms. Austin ended up coming back to your school next year, what would you do to support her in being a better teacher?
If Ms. Austin was required to come back to Southwest High School next year, the first thing I would definitely do is put her on a plan of assistance, have her work with district coaches and also work with individuals as like the department chair or the person over the science department. and try to make sure that the same level of intensity that she has for girls basketball, that she shows the same level of intensity in biology in regards to her students.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just one other thing, real quick, I promise. I think it's really important to make sure that we are genuine and authentic in our communication throughout. And that is from us to you, from you to her. I mean, everyone needs to practice that, because our perception of a situation perhaps is not the reality of it. And there may be a number of motivations around and behind why people do what they do.
Absolutely.
And it's important to recognize that it's true and accept it for what it is, and then move, towards strengths to get what we need out of a situation, instead of staying bound to things that perhaps are not productive to, allow for growth. So just a small caveat at 1:55.
Yes.
155.
Right.
Anything further, Mr. Heller?
Can I just address two more questions? There's one point that's.
Yes, sir.
that Really hadn't gotten a lot of play, but I just wanted to be clear on this, because Ms. Austin in her grievance talks about gender discrimination. And one of the things she says is that you only recommended female science teachers for non-hire. Is that correct?
That's true. No, that's not true.
Okay. Is there a male science teacher you've recommended for non-renewal?
Yes.
Okay. I won't ask you to say a name.
No.
And then, did Ms. Austin's gender have anything to do with your recommendation for non-renewal?
No, sir. None at all.
Yeah, that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Mr. Heller, do you have any other witnesses?
No.
I can get up.
We've reached the hour of almost 2 o'clock. Is there a need for closing statements? Because frankly,
My feelings if I didn't get a chance
well,
to.
you're out of time, but let's each of you take a couple of minutes and hold it to that.
I'll be as brief as I can.
Thank you, sir.
Board members, I've missed you. I'm glad to see you. We've gone past being late, and now we've gotten early. I want to thank you most of all on Ms. Austin's behalf for having the gumption and the grit to seek an Attorney General's opinion so that we have this process. Thank you. It means a lot. It says a lot about who you are as a board. I like print ads. And one of my favorite print ads is FedEx, right? Just the logo for FedEx. Because between the E and the X, FedEx uses negative space. And so in the E and the X of FedEx is an arrow, which signals kind of they're moving forward. They're carrying your stuff. And it took me forever. I actually read it from somebody else. And once you see the arrow in FedEx, you can't not see it. The negative space becomes the picture. Likewise, I've done a bunch of these with you all now, and the district has given you 6 exhibits. One of them is the district's letter from the superintendent. One of them is Ms. Austin's grievance. One of them is a document from Ms. Austin. 2 others are grievances from Ms. Austin. And then the grade distribution report. Like the negative space, usually when we have one of these, there's a whole pile of reprimands. There's a whole pile of documents saying, we tried to get this person to do right and they just wouldn't. Like the arrow in FedEx, once you see it, you can't not see it. In contrast, Ms. Austin, more than anybody else I've ever worked with, brings the receipts. And Ms. Austin, in a lot of places in these documents, as you all have looked at, because I watched you looking at them while she was testifying, tells on herself. She didn't say she's perfect. She says that she can perform the job, she's qualified for the job, she's effective at the job, and she's passionate about the job and the place. And we've talked a lot this evening, and this board has asked a lot about the changes. The Southwest High School is in turnaround to get things right, and we've had different leadership every year. She's been there for all of it. She's been a part of the upheaval So inconsistent standards, changes in leadership, the things that got to a point of needing turnaround, she's been there for. She's not at one point said that she's not willing to chip in and be better. She's not at one point said she doesn't want to help. Now I'll mention one other thing, and this is really about the last thing I've got. The letter from the district, everything else in it, there's no, like the FedEx arrow, there's nothing there. What you have is the failure rate's too high and she's got to go. The district said that in its opening. This is why we're here. In his testimony, Mr. Maxey said the reason for the non-renewal is because of that. He says, I wanted her non-renewed by the grade distribution, and I want to see the AVID principles utilized in the classroom, but there's not, like the FedEx arrow, there's not a single document showing the AVID principles or any evaluation or any failure of Ms. Austin to implement those in the classroom. There's no document, no evaluation, no anything that says, by gosh, you've been trained on this and we expect you to do right. And while I don't like to mention this because nobody wants this, it's been a while, so I might be wrong on this, but my understanding is a D is still passing. It isn't great, but it's still passing. It's not where we want students to be, but it's still passing. So as you deliberate, I appreciate your courtesy and your time and your investment in giving us this process, but I want you to think about the negative space. It's the arrow, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hiller?
So we've talked about a lot of things, including evaluations, including the notice of concern. As we just heard, Ms. Austin's even told on herself a little bit about some things that she did or didn't do that didn't help her case. But testimony, our purpose here was to give Mr. Maxey the opportunity to explain to you why he thinks Southwest High School would be better off next year without Ms. Austin. He did that. It's 2 in the morning. I'm not going to rehash all that. And Angela Bragg's even told you these accusations about gender discrimination. Well, she didn't say anything about that. These accusations about changing grades. Her witness, Ms. Bragg, said she's never asked to change grades. So I think you've heard from the person who made the decision exactly why he did it, and that's sufficient reason under the state rules, under tests, under our laws, for you to uphold the recommendation.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
I move that we go into executive session.
Second. All those in favor? All right, y'all will be in executive session, and we'll await your return. All right, we're back, the board's back out of executive session. Is there a motion?
Yes. Well, we can't change it now. Oh, we didn't modify, yeah.
Yes,
The
but
same.
it's both, really, you see what I'm saying?
Why don't you just merge it? Just say we're gonna modify it.
Okay. But we can't say this, because really it's sustained it and revised. Okay, okay, yeah. Okay, I'm sorry, we're ready. But just upon reviewing it, it just, oh, I don't know. I don't know.
Go ahead.
It's, okay.
Yes,
you're good. Okay, I move that the LRSD board sustain the grievance of Briana Austin and impose the remedy sought by the grievant and modify or revise and implement an intensive support plan in areas of noted deficiencies.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm sorry, I didn't vote.
You have to vote.
Want to call the vote again?
You have to vote.
I know,
it was
I know I did. I know I do. I'm sorry.
Yes.
It's 2:33.
No, I understand.
Give me a minute.
You're fine, under Robert's rules.
trying to get
we
out
can
here.
certainly do that, and
All right.
particularly the hour, so. The motion's been made and seconded, and all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
All right, the motion passes. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
So moved.
So moved.
Second? All those in favor? All right, we're adjourned. Good morning.
But maybe at 2:30.
I need that paper.